but still they want to understand what is the minimum basic CTC still, so that they can calculate the ROI on whatever fees they are paying to us. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Anuja Ashtewale. I am a co-founder and director of Imperial School of Banking and Management Study. We run AICT approved 2 years PGDM program into financial management. That is why we are an exclusive B school for finance. And we teach investment banking as one of our subject. Generally, when we discuss about investment banking, it fascinates a lot to student, and obviously why not? This field really gives a lot to student in terms of salary, in terms of career. This is very much rewarding. So today we will discuss about career in investment banking post PGDM. So today we have with us Mr. Sanket Shah. He is an industry veteran. He has worked almost for 2 decades into various global banks, into various verticals. So he will be the right person to guide the student on the investment banking topic. So welcome, sir, for at Imperial School of Banking and Management Studies.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Always a pleasure being.
Yes, thank you, sir. So as I told you that this field is very much rewarding for the students.
Yes.
So, but students are very confused कि what is exactly mean by investment banking. So, अगर आप student को ये थोड़ा सा explain करोगे कि ये क्या होता है investment banking?
Yes. So yes, I think as you rightly said at the start, this is a very glamorous field. And from an Indian careers point of view, it has come into focus in the last around 10-15 years, where we have seen a lot of global investment banks setting up their capability centers in India. So let's understand what investment banking really is. So from a theoretical point of view, investment banking is that arm of the finance industry which helps corporations in mergers and acquisitions by providing advice or by providing tactical funding as well. So this industry has moved on from the traditional role of advisory into the role of tactical funding processes as well.
Okay.
Of course, the Indian investment banking landscape is dominated by a few domestic players and a couple of global players. But when we speak of investment banking, we are largely referring to the big banks of Wall Street, which is the typical American banks like Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, for example, and a few large European banks. Europe and US is where the investment banking scene is very much matured now compared to what we have in India. We'll probably reach there in another 10, 20 to 15 years. But right now, when we talk of investment banking and all of the glamour associated with it, all of the career opportunities associated with it, we're largely referring to these global banks that have their presence in India as well.
Okay, that's great, sir. If we, break it down in more simpler terms, so can you guide students on how these investment banks are different than traditional banks? Because what happens, the student who are coming to us for admission or for inquiry, they know what HDFC Bank does, what ICICI Bank does, but they really don't have idea what Morgan Stanley does. So if you can guide student on this aspect, it will really help our students.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there are a lot of differences on how an investment bank operates versus how a normal commercial bank operates, and these differences are existing in India as well as if you move on into the markets of the US and Europe as well. A typical investment bank versus a typical commercial bank, the biggest difference is an investment bank doesn't really accept deposits. There's no deposit taking capability of investment banks. They raise their financing from the markets. Their activities of business are very different. A deposit taking institution like an HDFC Bank, for example, earns its money by giving out loans. And the difference between the rate of interest that they charge on their loans versus the rate of interest that they charge on their deposits is the main interest income. Now, there's no interest income for investment banks.
Okay.
The biggest source of income for investment banks is corporate financing and corporate advisory, where they deal with large corporate clients, which are your big companies, all of the big companies across all of the sectors in the US and in the Europe. They advise them on their capital structure. So how much should a company have in terms of equity versus how much a company should have in terms of debt. And it advises its clients, all of these large companies, in special situations like mergers and acquisitions, takeovers, and so on. In addition to that, a lot of the new age investment banks also include what is called as the securities business, where they provide tailored financing and securities investment solutions to their clients. All of these clients, by the way, are large corporates, other hedge funds, and so on. So investment banks don't deal with smaller retail clients. That's not part of the portfolio.
Okay.
So typically, they have an investment ceiling of over $100 million.
Okay.
So if you have $100 million, you obviously are not a retail investor.
Okay.
So they provide these kind of solutions, and they make money by either advising their clients or by financing them in special situations.
Okay, okay, that's great, sir. So as we discussed that there is a retail investor and again institutional investor. So can you guide again more on this aspect? Who all are retail investors and who all are institutional investor, and how this investment happens when there is an investment bank and client is there?
Yes. So retail investor is a typical individual investor.
Like you and me.
Like you
Yes,
and me.
correct.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Your typical individual investor who has a few lakhs or a few crore rupees to invest.
Okay.
These are not the clients of investment banks.
Okay.
They go to typical small brokerage houses or smaller investment banks or even hedge funds for that matter. But when it comes to a large corporate entity or extremely high ultra net worth individuals,
Okay.
people who typically have an investable amount in the excess of $100 million or $200 million,
Okay.
these companies or these institutions and these individuals, they need to diversify their investments,
Okay.
not just across geographies, but also across different asset classes.
Different asset class. Exactly.
And that includes alternative assets as well, like all of your cryptocurrencies, etc. So investment banks typically tend to cater to these kind of institutional investors, where they offer their expertise across asset classes. And because investment banks are scattered across the world, they allow these people and these institutions to invest that money across geographies as well.
Okay. Okay.
So that kind of diversification is typically not offered by your smaller brokerages.
Okay, very well explained, sir. One more thing, as we discussed that there is a mature system of this investment banking in US and Europe side, and we have also heard, even students have heard that in India there is a middle office and back office.
That's right, yes.
So what exactly middle office and back office are, what they do in India, and what do you mean by front office? If you can explain this to our students.
So typically an investment bank has three types of offices, as we call them: the front office, the middle office, and the back office.
Okay.
So front office, if you think of investment banks as advisory companies or trading organizations where they offer tailor-made client solutions, these front offices is where the actual income generating activity happens.
Okay.
So people who sit in the front office are typically the sales and trading people
Okay.
who either offer tailor-made advice to their clients or who trade on behalf of their clients to help the clients make money.
Okay.
And this is the front office.
Okay,
It's the
so
client-facing.
basically, sorry to interrupt you in between. So basically, it must be more of client interaction.
Client.
Okay,
Absolutely.
front office. Okay,
This is the front office. Typically, is the client-facing arm of the investment bank.
okay.
Once the client-facing arm has done its job, there's a lot of things that need to be done. The paperwork, as we say, to make sure that everything that the bank is earning or everything that the bank is doing
Okay.
is recorded in the firm's books and records
Okay.
and various different systems of the firms.
Okay.
So the middle office and the back office are responsible for these activities.
Okay.
They assist the front office to make sure that all the transactions and all the activity of the front office, all the money that they have earned or lost in many cases, is recorded fairly and properly in the books and records of the firm.
Okay.
The firm's IT systems, processes are taking care of everything that is happening in the front office.
Okay.
So that's typically the job of the middle office and the back
Okay.
office.
Okay. So middle, is there any difference between middle office and back office, or more or less they do the same work?
No, there's a lot of distinction.
Okay.
There's a big distinction first between the front office and the middle and the back office. And within the middle and the back office, there's a lot of distinction where the middle office is mainly the record keeping arm. So everything that happens in the front office is recorded by the middle office as it is.
Okay.
When it comes to the back office is where all the analysis takes place, all the reporting takes place
Okay.
of all of these records.
Okay.
So for example, if you have done 100,000 transactions in a day, The middle office would just simply record those transactions.
Okay.
But how much risk has those transactions generated?
Okay.
How much profit and loss has those transactions generated?
Okay.
How much money has the firm made out of those transactions or lost out of those transactions
Okay.
is being analyzed and reported by the back office.
Okay, so majorly all the technical part is being taken care in the middle and
the middle
really
office,
back office. Okay, so as everybody knows that you are teaching this subject to our students. So are we covering these topics or the technical things that you have mentioned, which student will cater to middle and back office in our syllabus?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So,
do take care.
So can you, explain few topics that we have already added in our syllabus and that will help student to get, job in the middle and back office of the investment?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So in addition to what is being done in the front office, it's very important for students to understand the middle office and back office, because the kind of scenario that exists in India today, with all the global capability centers coming in, the back offices and the middle offices of the world are in India.
True.
So students have to understand what happens in the middle office and the back office. So we do cover a lot of topics. For example, we do cover a lot of topics on reference data.
Okay.
We do cover, which basically means that all of the transaction data that supports the generation of various reports and activities of the firm, all of that needs a lot of reference data understanding.
Okay.
Yeah, all of those record keeping activities. We do cover how firms make assessment of risk, how a portfolio risk is generated. So what is risk, for example? Those kind of topics we do cover in our syllabus.
Okay. So we are rest assured that we are making our students ready for these kinds of job roles.
Absolutely.
Okay, so this is one vertical of technical training. At the same time, it is said that student communication has to be very perfect if they want to make career into investment banking. If you can again explain more on this aspect as well.
Absolutely. So since investment banks are global firms,
Yeah.
every student who gets into either a front office role or a back office or a middle office role, he will invariably interact with people across the world.
Correct.
And the most important thing, even before the knowledge, comes communication. So if you have to communicate with people, on the one hand who are sitting in Japan, for example, and on the other hand who are sitting in the US, the student needs to understand that he needs to put his message across in a way that these people from different backgrounds understand the message.
Okay.
If that is taken care of,
Okay.
then a career in investment banking becomes very easy.
Okay.
Simply because there are different types of people that you have to deal with.
True. True.
The knowledge will come.
Okay.
We give a lot of knowledge.
Yes.
But the way of communicating that knowledge
Okay.
to the certain individuals and different parts of the organization becomes extremely critical.
Okay.
Because of the global nature of the business.
Okay, understood. So we need to make students capable of, making them speak good in English first, and then maybe their technical skills will come.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much, sir, for this input. One more question, sir. As part of GCC, these banks are evolving in India. So what will be the future of this if there is a recession which will hit maybe across the world?
Right.
So what is your opinion on this?
So there's a pattern. Whenever a recession hits US and Europe, and typically it hits both the continents across the Atlantic together. So because India is more of a capability center kind of roles, when a US recession starts, a lot of the roles in the US start coming to India, because there's a lot of pressure on global banks to start cutting costs during a recession, because revenues are not growing. So what's the next thing that they can do? They have to trim the bottom line.
Correct.
And the best way to do it, because manpower cost is the single biggest cost for investment banks, obviously.
True.
So they trim the manpower cost. So they let go a lot of people in the US, for example. But things need to be done. So what do? They transfer those roles from US or UK or Europe into India. So this industry, from an Indian point of view, has typically been a recession-proof industry. Because whenever a global recession happens, it actually means good days for India.
Okay.
Because a lot of roles start coming from the US and Europe into India.
Okay.
Because of the nature of the way we work here, our salaries are low.
Okay.
Talented manpower is very, very easily available in India.
Okay.
So it's easy for global banks to start shifting roles from UK and US into India.
ओके ये जनरली स्टूडेंट्स को पता नहीं होता है. देर इज अ जनरल नोशन कि एक बार रिसेशन आया तो एवरीबडी विल बी जॉबलेस विद इन 1 or 2 year. थैंक यू सो मच सर फॉर दिस इनपुट अगेन. एंड देर इज अ लॉट ऑफ चार्टर्ड बॉडीज हु कंडक्ट लॉट ऑफ courses like CFA, even CA is there. So this is the favorite group or the favorite students for the hiring of investment in the field of investment banking. So if at all our student want to compete with CFA level 1 or level 2 or whatever or CA, what are the skill sets student need to work on?
So the typical skill sets that the CFA imparts are two things.
Okay.
One is a very good body of knowledge about corporate finance,
Okay.
and second is ethics.
Okay.
Understanding what is right, what is wrong, what are controls, all of those things. Now, if a student wants to compete with someone who has done a CFA or is in the process of obtaining a CFA charter
Okay.
without getting a CFA charter, is to make sure that he is updated with the same body of knowledge.
Okay.
There is a lot of literature, very good quality literature available on corporate finance,
Okay.
which is obviously part of the CFA course as well. And the student needs to understand very clearly the do's and don'ts of corporate world.
Okay.
So because that's essentially what they're going to do after they get a job anyway.
Okay.
Or to make sure that you compete well with someone who has a charter or someone who is in the process of getting a charter,
Okay.
is to obtain that body of knowledge and to obtain those control mindsets.
Okay, okay. So I hope we have covered all these points in our syllabus so that even if students want to opt for say for level 1 while pursuing their PhD, and that will also be possible for them.
So all of the fundamentals that are required for a student to take up a CFA,
Okay.
we are anyway covering that.
Yes, yes, true.
So someone who wants to actually go ahead and get a financial chartered degree,
Okay.
CFA, FRM, whichever it is,
Okay, okay.
it's very easy because all the building blocks are already in place in our curriculum.
Okay, okay. Apart from these skill sets, like whatever you have mentioned till now, is there any other vertical into finance which student need to study so that it supports their career in investment banking?
Yeah, absolutely.
After joining the industry.
Yes. Why not?
Yeah.
See, this industry is evolving very rapidly.
Yes.
There are lots of advances that are taking place. So, for example, a lot of the industry started to automate itself now.
Okay.
Right? So, all of the tools of automation, very basic coding skills in Python, for example,
Okay.
right? There was a time when 10 years back, Excel and SQL were the talk of the town.
True.
But that time is now past.
Okay.
People are now migrating out of that. So we need actually students who have a good sound understanding of Python notebooks,
Okay. Python. Okay.
AI.
Okay. I
Machine
think everybody should take the note of this.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
The Python, R, those kind of languages which are very important in day-to-day functioning of investment banks.
Okay.
All of your data science related terminology,
Okay.
understanding data, mapping data, understanding the data lineage, for example, those kind of things which are typically part of a data science course. They are now getting introduced very rapidly into an investment banker's daily life.
Okay, that's great. So we have also added some technology part in our syllabus. Like we have already added Python, as you said, and we are adding AI in finance as well.
Yes.
So that क्योंकि जनरली क्या होता है हमें पता है कि AI इज़ अ बज़वर्ड, स्टूडेंट को ये भी पता है कि कैसे सर्च करना है, लेकिन राइट वे में कैसे सर्च करना है वो आना ज़्यादा ज़रूरी है.
Yes. So all of your
Exactly.
catchphrases should be there properly
Okay.
in a particular sequence so that you get a meaningful output.
Okay, okay. So this is all technology part. But apart from technology, do they need to study maybe fund accounting or risk management along with this investment banking?
So it's very important, right? So finding a job is a very technical process.
Okay.
And when students go through it, my recommendation is very simple. You need to figure out what kind of niches or what kind of companies are coming to your campus.
Correct.
So for example, in today's back office landscape,
Okay.
we have quite a few fund accounting companies who visit campuses.
True.
So if there are fund accounting jobs available, it is very natural that we expect the students to learn something about fund accounting.
True.
So these small niches which help them set themselves apart from the entire crowd for a particular job are very important for the student.
Okay.
So to learn something about fund accounting, so we are situated in Pune. There are a lot of fund accounting companies around here.
True.
So
And we are also getting a lot of fund admins actually to hire as students.
exactly.
And students are really making good career into these domains. Yeah.
And that's why things like fund accounting are very important.
Okay.
Fund accounting, the settlement process of a stock, those kind of things where we've got a lot of custodians also here in Pune, right? So the entire custodial process, which includes things like handling corporate actions, for example,
Okay.
reconciliations,
Okay.
something about reconciliation. So for example, we do have a part in our curriculum specifically dedicated to reconciliations.
Okay.
So what is the reconciliation? What is the front office, back office reconciliation? Those kind of things,
Okay.
which are important, but they also help the student target specific niches,
Okay.
which basically means specific companies and specific job roles.
This makes student as a whole ready for the
Ready.
career. Okay, into investment banking. Okay, that's great. और सबसे फेवरेट स्टूडेंट का सवाल एक रहता है कि व्हाट इज द मिनिमम CTC आई कैन एक्सपेक्ट मे बी आफ्टर स्टडिंग दिस सब्जेक्ट ऑफ इन्वेस्टमेंट बैंकिंग और पोस्ट completion of PGDM that we also guide student that it is all depend on the tiering of the institute.
Correct. Yes.
But still they want to understand what is the minimum basic CTC still so that they can calculate the ROI on whatever fees they are paying to us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, as you said, right, there's a layered answer to this. It cannot be answered in black and white.
Yes.
But the good thing is, the one thing that I definitely tell everyone is that being part of this industry, it's pretty much certain that you are going to be ahead of 80% of the people
Okay.
who are coming into the job market from a similar institute. So if you're already ahead of 80%,
Okay.
you're already in the top 20%,
Okay.
then the actual number would obviously mimic that.
Okay.
So you'll be ahead of 80% of the people, right? And if you put in the right kind of efforts to target your specific companies and niches, that means that even within that 20%, you will be in the top percentile,
True.
right? Now, whether it is a 10 lakh CTC, a 15 lakh CTC or 20 lakh CTC doesn't matter.
True.
Because this industry is a highly paying industry compared to everything else that is out there.
Exactly.
So my advice is you should target obviously the highest CTC, no doubt about that, but it is better to target particular job roles and niches where there is a history of high paying roles.
Okay. Okay. Hope sir must have clarified the query related to CTC part as well. And one more question, sir, related to eligibility part, because when student comes to us for admission, they come from varied backgrounds. Some are from engineering, few have done their BCom, few have done their BSc in statistics as well. So we always tell them that if you're good at numbers, everything is possible. You can get good job in this investment banking industry.
That is correct.
So if you can discuss more on this, their background won't affect.
Yes.
If they're good at numbers and they have a good communication skills to crack the interview.
Yeah. So this is a very common notion that it's either usually the commerce graduates or the engineering graduates who are good at or who would actually find this course easier. But that can't be far further from the truth.
Correct.
This is not a course, this is not a commerce course.
True.
This is not an engineering.
Exactly. This is not a commerce course. Yeah.
Exactly. This is way beyond commerce.
True. True.
In commerce, we focus on accounting and auditing. Here, accounting and auditing forms a very small base of what we are building an entire building of. If I have to give a very close example, I always present myself. I am neither a commerce graduate nor an engineering graduate.
Okay.
I have graduated in biotechnology, and from that, I made the leap into a finance course first.
Okay.
And because of the way I succeeded in finance, it introduced me to the world of investment banking.
Correct.
So your background doesn't really matter. What you do during these 1.5 to 2 years, that matters a lot.
Okay.
And that is because, see, effectively MBA in finance or a postgraduate degree in finance
Okay.
teaches you a lot beyond what is just understanding numbers. It is also about understanding the perspective.
Yes, maybe interpreting it.
Interpreting
narrative way.
numbers.
Yeah, true.
And looking beyond the numbers to actually analyze what exactly is happening, even beyond the numbers.
Okay.
And that doesn't come from studying commerce or studying engineering. That comes from what is inside here.
Okay.
Whatever you have done before your postgraduate course.
Okay, that's great, sir. You have given again a good insight on the eligibility part also. अभी ऐसे मुझे लग रहा है कि I have only learned investment banking as a subject. Okay, so today we have got insights on how investment banking industry is changing. What are the skill set required by the student? How students should work, upon themselves to, if at all they want to make the career into investment banking. So thank you so much, sir, for coming and giving your insight on this, topic of investment banking. And we look forward for many more, sessions with you. And stay tuned with Imperial School of Banking and Management Studies for more podcasts like this. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes.